another thing that when we're not paying attention to these things, like I always tell people, I'm like, chronic disease begins in childhood and shows up in adulthood. We have so many sick adults and they're like, oh, that's just because of my current lifestyle. Yes, that's adding to it. But all this started when we were kids. Disease begins at 10 years. We have evidence, medical evidence that coronary artery disease, which is the precursor to heart attacks, evidence of that is in 10-year-olds' aortas. How would you see that? In motor vehicle accidents at autopsy, they looked in the children's bodies at autopsy. They found evidence of coronary disease as early as 10. That's how young they didn't recruit younger, maybe even younger than that. So the damage begins if we're not paying attention to our children. So all the stuff that I treat in my practice is actually for the long play.
If you haven't done so already, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. It's a little red button. You punch that, and it's going to notify you every time we put out a new episode that can help you improve your bone health. And then also, if you haven't done so already, head over to bonecoach.com, sign up for the free 7-day Osteoporosis Kickstart. That's going to walk you through everything you need to be doing right now to get on the path to improvement and stronger bones. After you do those two things, go ahead and press play on this episode, and I'll see you inside. Welcome to this episode of the Bone Coach Show. Joining us today to explore children's behavior, skin conditions, and bone health, and how to help build strong, healthy kids from a young age is Dr. Mariatemplemd. Dr. Mariatemplemd is a holistic pediatrician, best-selling author of 2 books of Healthy Kids in an Unhealthy World and Ending the Eczema Epidemic. She has an online program called the Eczema Transformation. And in her private practice, she treats general pediatric patients and chronically ill children with a functional medicine approach. Her passion is to inspire, educate, and empower mamas to revamp their family's health and reverse chronic disease with less medications. Her hobby is a slight addiction to social media. Dr. Mariatemplemd, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad you're here because we're going to talk about a really important topic, which is our kids and our grandkids, and how we can help them create a healthy foundation so they can thrive in the future. And you've been doing this for a long time. You've been a practicing physician for a long time. So maybe give us a little bit of your background and how you went from where you were to how you're helping kids today.
Yeah, so I'm a traditionally trained pediatrician. I actually came from Romania in 1984. So I came into 6th grade not knowing any English, so I had to learn how to do it from scratch in a different culture, in a different country. Went to med school at Chapel Hill, and then in 2007, I had 3 children by that time, and all 3 of my children were sick with chronic disease. Eczema, asthma, seasonal allergies, recurrent constipation, recurrent ear infections, ADHD. And one day I just got tired of them being on all these medications. So I took this 3-ring circus to the doctors and I was like, why are my children on chronic meds? And for the little one who had seasonal allergies that were so bad that he couldn't even go out on an Easter egg hunt because his eyes would swell shut. His tears would stream down his face. His body would be covered in hives and he'd be on the ground ripping his skin off. For that little one, they said, we've run out of medications because he was already on 5 drugs. The only next option for him is allergy shots. He was 2 years old. For my daughter, they're like, well, for asthma, we'll keep that under control with inhaled steroids. For eczema, we'll put topical steroids. For allergies, we'll use Zyrtec. She will outgrow her recurrent ear infections, and daily Miralax will treat her chronic constipation. So by the time we got to my middle kid with the amount of snot and boogers that he could never leave the house anymore. By the time we got to him and his ADHD, like I had stopped paying attention. And I felt unheard, I felt dismissed, and I walked out of that doctor's office with no better answers than when I walked in. And frankly, I was just even more frustrated. And for all my mama warriors out there, you know, when the mama warrior takes over and she's like, wait, what? The children are going to be on chronic meds for the rest of this is not going to be their story. I don't know what the rest of the story, how we're going to get there, but this is not the rest of the story. One day we're going to figure things out and they're going to be the example by which other families are going to heal their children and reverse chronic disease. I don't know how we're going to get there, but that's what we're going to do. And my doctor stuff was like, good luck. I had no idea what to do except meds. Anyway, a week later, with my mind already open to other possibilities, I walked into a nutrition lecture at my children's school. And it was on that Tuesday morning, 7:30 in the morning, freezing my booty off in the first grade classroom, stuffed in a chair, that the fog lifted. And I understood the root cause of my children's disease. All that the lady talked about was sugar. And I thought, giving my children strawberries at lunch and broccoli at dinner was good. I did not realize how much sugar I was giving my kids. So I went home that night in my stilettos after clinic, and I threw out the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the Fruit Loops, the Pop-Tarts, the mac and cheese, the orange crackers with peanut butter, and you name a garbage. My kids were eating it, and I was throwing it out. And that's when I became an outcast in my own family. John and I started fighting over food, and that fight continued over the next 5 years. My friends thought I lost my mind. My family was like, yeah, we got to cross her off the will. And then my other medical practitioners in my practice were like, where's the medical evidence? And I was like, I don't know where the medical evidence is, but it can be wrong to get rid of processed foods and replace them with fruits and vegetables. And as all my mama warriors know, when you decide that you have a mission, you go despite the naysayers and you just do it. And so over time, it took us about 5 years. Over the next 5 years, my children came off their chronic medications. They stopped needing antibiotics. They didn't need any more steroids. We never ended up on allergy shots, never needed ADHD medicine. And then by 2016, John and I quit our jobs. We moved to New Zealand and we watched our children thrive. We had no medical insurance, no medications, no doctors. We didn't know anybody there. And our children climbed the highest mountains and bungee jumped off the tallest bridges. And that's what it looks like to come back from chronic disease. And when I came back to the States, I didn't want to do it all over again. So I opened my own practice to teach what I have learned along this journey to help other families heal from chronic disease and not rely on medications like we are taught in Western medicine.
I love that. I love first that you started out by just holding the vision and saying, I don't know what this looks like right now, but this is where we're going to go. Like my kids aren't going to be on medications the rest of their life. And I know this is the path we want to go. Even if you don't have it all figured out, that's okay. At least you held that vision for that. And the other part of this is you said that you became like an outcast or like the black sheep in your family when you started making these decisions. And I think that strikes a chord with a lot of people in our audience, the mothers, the grandmothers, because they may want to make these changes for their household, for themselves, but also for their kids and grandkids. And that those changes, even though they're for the better, they may be met with a lot of resistance. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like how do the parents and grandparents and the mama warriors navigate that resistance?
Oh, the resistance is big. It's huge because the abnormal is normal, right? Eating Fruit Loops and Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the normal. And fruits or eating dinner for breakfast or doing, let's say leftovers, or you're doing eggs or something else. It was like, it's just cray. Like, what do you mean? They just have cereal. Let's go out the door. Everybody else has cereal. And if you deprive them of cereal, kids are fun. They should have fun. So it was so difficult in my house. John, and he knows all these, so it's not like I'm talking behind his back publicly on a podcast.
John is your husband. John is your husband. And, I know John and Dr. Anna Maria for a while now, but so that's who she's referencing when she's talking about this.
Yeah. And the husband who we referenced to, he is an orthopedic surgeon. And so we went to medical school together. So we learned the same thing. So a little background is in med school, we calculated we had 17 hours of nutrition in 4 years and 210 hours of pharmacology, which is the study of drugs. So that's where we came from. And what we learned, and as in orthopedics, is like you have a problem, you surgerize it and you fix it. And in the regular model, is like you put a diagnosis and there's a medication that goes with the diagnosis. So that's what we were taught. Anyway, he loved his Cheez-Its. That man loved some Cheez-Its. So at dinner, he would sit with a box of Cheez-Its on the ground. And while we're feeding the children and him dinner, he would like lean over, and I'm leaning over on a podcast, you guys can see me, but he would lean over and he would get Cheez-Its and act like no one saw him. Of course, the children could see him. And they're like, crackers, knack. And I'm like, oh my God, he is thwarting my efforts. at changing these children's diet. We fought over the blender. I was like, I need a Vitamix. And he's like, a Vitamix? That's just a fancy blender. It's like a $400 blender. I'm like, right, because we're going to make smoothies and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, that's complete hooey. I don't know what changed his mind, but he did buy me a blender for Mother's Day. And I know that sounds like totally wacky as a Mother's Day gift. However, I really wanted this blender. So we started with the Vitamix, and then he started making smoothies. So I got him on the smoothie track. He was still eating Cheez-Its. And so then what I did is I was like, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to try some substitutions. And I got the kids involved. I was like, all right, here's some other Cheez-It options that I'm trying for, quote unquote, my patients. Let's do a taste test. And so he tasted because the kids were tasting, and the kids were like, oh, is daddy tasting? What does he feel? La, la, la. So we did that with several products that I was trying to switch out, because I was like, let me try to switch some things out that have food coloring. I try to get rid of food coloring, then preservatives, then added sugar, etc. That going so great. So then he started complaining about the price of the groceries, because now what's up with the eggs? What's up with the organic, pasture-raised, fur-petted chickens and eggs? What is up with the fancy meat and, all this stuff? And I was like, okay, time for a documentary. So not for him. I was like, dear children, we're all going to watch Food Inc. Now, I knew he was home, so that's one, but I did not make him watch Food Inc. I made the children watch Food Inc. So of course he's like, hey, what are you guys watching? And he came over and he started watching. I remember him, he was standing behind the couch, he wouldn't even sit down. Arms crossed, he's a big dude, giant dude. And he's sitting behind the couch, arms crossed, kind of a frown on his face, watching Food Inc. But he watched it and he started paying attention. And then he was like, you'd hear a little in the background and kind of whatever. And he walked away and he let it process for a while. And maybe a few weeks later, he started kind of complaining less about the grocery bill. And then another time I got a documentary for the children called Fed Up, which is all about added sugar. So the children are watching. Then he does the same thing, does a lurking in the background. Then he kind of looks, watches. So it was like a slow transition. So one of the things, because me badgering him was not going to work. Me trying to lecture the orthopedic surgeon on nutrition was a no-go. And so I was like, you know what? We're just going to lecture the children and we're going to teach the children. We're going to make changes. So we started making changes over the next 5 years. And we were going on a trip to Paris. And he was sick. And he was so sick. He's coughing. He ended up in bed. That man was he would do surgeries when he was like half dead because he had a stomach bug or whatever. He never skipped a day of work. He was in bed coughing up blood. And I was like, that's it. We're going to urgent care because tomorrow we're getting on a plane to France and you may or may not make it. I don't know. You may have to leave you home. So we went to urgent care. He had double pneumonia. And let me tell you something. He was on that plane. He wasn't coughing. He was good. He was on antibiotics. He wasn't spreading stuff. And then when we landed in France, he did not complain. He knew not to complain because I was like, I have no time for this nonsense. You're not taking care of your body. That's fine, but you're not going to inconvenience everybody else. I remember he walked like, I don't know, 9 miles on like from Champs-Élysées to Louvre, whatever, it doesn't matter. And he wouldn't stop. Anyway, he felt so bad. And when we came back, he was like, how come I'm the only one that gets sick? How come no one else gets sick? And that was the turning point. I was planting the seeds gently on the periphery without badgering him. And because he got sick, he started questioning it. He started making a little change, another change. And I think then he read Jeffrey Bland's, listened to the audiobook In Defense of Food. And that's when he was like, did you know they used to make cereal different than no. Did you know? You're like, give me all these facts. Like, did you know that in the food industry is adding food coloring and all this? Anyway, so it was a long play. Wasn't overnight. Took 5 years. But we got there. And now I'm happy to report once we were on the same page, then the children really couldn't fight us. Then we're like the progress in our kids' health like skyrocketed. And his health changed. And he has been on video talking about how when he changed his diet, his joints stopped hurting, his weird hives that he had all the times got better, his sleep got better, his anxiety got better, his blood pressure, he was about to be on blood pressure medicines, got better. And he talks about it, and he wasn't a believer until he had to simmer and figure it out himself. And then once he saw, he couldn't unsee, and now he's just a better person for it.
Hey, it's Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. I want to take one more minute to talk about if you are somebody who was newly diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis, and you're at a point where you're stressed, you're worried, you're overwhelmed, you have no idea where to start or how to get started getting confident in your plan. I want to tell you about the Stronger Bone Solution Program. Over 5,000 people have come through the Stronger Bone Solution Program, and it walks you through the exact process you need to fill in the missing pieces, uncover critical things in your plan that you may not be aware of, and help you make modifications, adjustments, and tweaks to get you to the place where you're building stronger bones. I want you to get confident in your plan so that you can focus on living life and enjoying the life that you deserve with the people you love most. So if that's where you want to be, head over to bonecoach.com/apply and apply for our Stronger Bone Solution Program right now. I'm Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. I want to see you inside this program. I want to help you get on the path to improvement and stronger bones. Hope to see you inside very soon. Let's get back to the episode. I love this. I want to recap some of the big points that you just touched on there, because this is important for somebody who's in this situation right now trying to make these decisions. So first thing that I heard you say was, we got like a blender. That was the starting point, was like an actual thing. So if the holidays are coming up, or you got a birthday coming up, and there's some kind of health device or thing that you want, maybe that's the time to ask that person to get that for you. So maybe that's one seed you're planting. The other ones, I love this. These like subtle planting of seeds versus just badgering. You're creating the environment for this to happen over time. Watch Food Inc. and watch the documentary called Fed Up. So those are great. And maybe you're not directing it to the person you want to help make the change, but they're there and may pique their interest. So that's a great one. And then the audiobook In Defense of Food. I think that was another one that you mentioned. But I think the underlying thing here for everybody to take away is that these are gentle exposures versus brute force. Right? Planting the seed,
Amen.
Badgering. This may go against your natural communication tendency too, with your spouse, partner, significant other. And I would just encourage you, focus on co-creation of this environment together versus just top-down, brute force approach. So thank you so much for sharing that and walking that through. Let's go through now. Like, you see a lot of different patients and kids and situations. What are the most common issues you see and health issues that you're seeing kids with today, and how are those connected to their physical health?
Yeah. So one of the things that I talk a lot and see a lot about is eczema, which for a lot of people seems like it's a skin issue. What people don't realize, it's not a lotion deficiency. Eczema shows up, and it's actually one of the first things that shows up in children. Eczema is most commonly diagnosed between the ages of 3 and 6 months. Right at the beginning, a lot of doctors will blow it off and say, oh, eczema is just normal. They're going to outgrow it. There's nothing normal about a chronic disease. Eczema is a chronic disease, and it's the body's first indication that something is amiss. When it gets ignored, it starts snowballing. Eczema is part of the allergy triad. And then from eczema, you develop food allergies. And then you do seasonal allergies, asthma. Next up, anxiety, ADHD. And all of these pile up. And then all of a sudden, our bones are falling apart, because they're not separate things. They all work together to tell us that something is amiss, and then it manifests differently in other people. I deal with children with ADHD, anxiety, autism, pandas. These are all neurological issues. And it seems like, it's neurological, they can't be connected. Fun fact, about 40% of children with autism first start out with eczema. Can't tell autism at 3 to 6 months old. You can see eczema. Eczema is a skin condition. You see it from the outside. In my programs, I have so many kids that come in with a skin issue. Everyone's focusing. They also have autism, or they also have other neurologic issues. And as we focus on healing the skin from within, as the skin gets better, their behavior gets better. As their behavior gets better, their asthma gets better. And then their seasonal allergies get better. And everyone's like, wait, how can all this be connected? It is all connected with inflammation. In my traditional training, we were taught eczema, dermatologist, asthma, pulmonologist, you have ADHD, neurologist. It was all these ologists, as if our organ system lived alone in a jar on a shelf instead of it's part of the bigger process. So as a holistic pediatrician, as a holistic doctor or provider, what you look at is you see the skin, whoa, that's a problem. You hear the wheezing, whoa, that's a problem, or the ADHD, it's an issue. But really the question is, what is going on inside this body? Because it's all related. All the organs communicate via blood, nervous system, energy, chemicals. So if one is amiss, the other one is amiss. We may not see all the mess, shall we say, that's on the inside. You may only see it in one organ system, but fear not everything else. And another thing that when we're not paying attention to these things, like I always tell people, I'm like, chronic disease begins in childhood and shows up in adulthood. We have so many sick adults and they're like, oh, that's just because my current lifestyle. Yes, that's adding to it. But all this started when we were kids. Disease begins at 10 years. We have evidence, medical evidence that coronary artery disease, which is the precursor to heart attacks, evidence of that is in 10-year-olds' aortas. How would you see that? In motor vehicle accidents at autopsy, they looked in the children's bodies at autopsy. They found evidence of coronary disease as early as 10. That's how young they didn't recruit younger, maybe even younger than that. So the damage begins if we're not paying attention to our children. So all the stuff that I treat in my practice is actually for the long play. So they become healthy adults that don't need specialists, that don't need medications.
Yeah. One of our team members, Dr. Sherry Betts, she talks about osteoporosis being a pediatric condition with geriatric manifestation, right? And so many of these chronic health issues, they're early indicators early on. It's not to say that if you're a healthy kid earlier on that you're not going to develop something later, but I would love to understand from you, instead of just like focusing on the prevention of some disease later on down the line, how do we create strong, healthy kids from a young age?
Right. So it's, this is where the controversy begins because like, well, we have to remove the food coloring out of their diet. It is everywhere and it's increasing. We have to remove chemicals. There's over 10,000 chemicals in children's food that have never been tested on humans and the FDA has approved. The AAP in 2018 specifically said there's 3,267 chemicals on the FDA website that they deem safe, that they're fine. And so out of those, 6% have been tested for endocrine disruption, and only 2 studies out of 3,647, 2 have been studied for neurological outcomes. So we have put all these chemicals in food, not tested it, and we're acting like it's fine. And when people are saying, wait, hold on, we're questioning it, that's where the weirdos are. And I'm like, but we're evidence-based people. We're an evidence-based society, evidence-based medicine. What are we doing to our children? So it is looking at the food, starting with what's in front of our children's plates, our grandchildren's plates. Are they eating food-colored food? If there's artificial food coloring, that's got to go. Gone. Garbage. Non-negotiable. A lot of times.
What are the names of those too? Let's get specific and list maybe a couple of those off, because people may hear that, but they might not actually know. So like.
Sure. If it says red 40, blue 40, blue 4, yellow, tetrazine, caramel color, enanto color, all those, what I tell people when I first started, it was so confusing, right? I'm trying to change, I'm trying to fight the children, the husband. I'm like, trying to change their diet. I'm trying to read ingredients. It's 2007. Google is not really what it is today. There was no Instagram, guys. If you could believe it, there was no Instagram. Well, actually, these folks actually know there's no Instagram. But anyway, there was no Instagram where you would get like all this information coming at you. Anyway, so it was so confusing. I was like, I don't know. What is this ingredient? What's that ingredient? I don't have the time. So what my shortcut was, if I can't read it, don't eat it. So if I have to look up what is red 40 associated with, if you have to look that up, you're not eating that. If you go, what is monosodium glutamate? That's a no. Are there any side effects? If you have to Google, are there any health effects to sucralose? We're putting it back. Because you know what you don't go? Are there any side effects to apples? Are there any side effects to Brussels sprouts? No, you don't Google that. Because you're like, oh, that's a fruit, that's a vegetable, we'll move on. Are there any side effects to erythritol? No, putting it back. I don't care how fancy the drink is, and I don't care who's promoting this drink and who created the drink. No one cares. There's an ingredient you have to look up. We're putting it back. If you can't read it, don't eat it. It is the shortest, quickest. I like simple things because I'm a busy person and I don't have time for complications. So that's one way to start looking at stuff. And when we start, and then teaching the children, what's the saying? Teach a man to fish and help make a man. You know what I'm saying? The fish thing. What's the fish thing? Give a man a fish.
They'll eat give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
Thank you. I'm a foreigner guy. I don't know these things. Anyway, but yeah, so the fish thing. So, right, the same thing with the children. If we just, hey, you can't have this. No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. It's a no, no, no. They're going to revolt. Your daughters revolt. Your sons revolt. The grandkids revolt. So then we just kind of go, oh, hey, let me do a little teaching on red 40, on how it causes hyperactivity and inattention and rashes and whatever. Better yet is when a child eats, let's say Fruit Loops, let's just beat on Fruit Loops. Like they eat Fruit Loops and then they have a bellyache, or maybe they're in trouble at school. But what could it be? What do you think could have caused you to be so out of control at school today? And they'll be like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, could it be anything you ate? I don't think so. I'm like, well, let's look. And then you start becoming a detective with a questioning mindset. Could it be red 40? Let's look that up, especially if there's like kids that have Chromebooks. I don't know. Do you think there's any connection between the red 40 and the Fruit Loops and your outburst today at school? Let's Google it. Oh, what? It is? That's amazing. Boom. Now you've made a connection. And because once the kids start making a connection that their belly hurts because they ate Taco Bell, this actually happened in my house, or they have a headache because they ate Chick-fil-A, or they, whatever, just insert the thing. They have acne because they're still eating their Halloween candy. Once they make that connection, no, they're not going to change tomorrow, but the seed has been planted. And now when it happens again, they're like, oh, or a friend talks about it, or they see it on social media. It's a little seed and a little seed. So making the connection. So really trying to teach our children how to choose food. And I teach my children, I was like, the food that you eat, you can choose to eat food that hurts you, or you can choose to eat food that heals you. It is your choice. I'm not going to be with you for the rest of your life, hopefully, and you're on your own. And so when you're on your own, you're going to have to make a choice. Sure. Is it fun to drink beer all day? Yeah, but you know what? There's not natural consequences to that. Is it fun to eat garbage all day? Sure. But then the next day, don't complain that you feel like crud and you can't focus and you have brain fog and you can't perform. We can't have, in my house, when the kids would kind of go rogue and they would just, as I said, I'm like, they would, the story about Taco Bell. My son went with my mother-in-law and they went to eat, and she was like, kids are fun. They need to have fun. You're mean and you're too strict. So when they're with me, I'm fun grandma. So we're going to go do fun things like eat Taco Bell and drink Coke. And I'm like, have fun, everyone. And didn't say a thing, did not badger anyone, did not lecture anyone. I was like, toodles. And then Jake came back and he was like, oh man, my stomach is killing me. And I'm like, oh, what could it be? I literally I telling you this is what I do. What could it be? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, me neither. Did you do anything different today? No. Did anybody hit you in the belly? No. Do you eat anything different? He was like, no, wait. Yeah, I went to Taco Bell. And I'm like, do you think maybe that had to do something with that? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, have you ever had Taco Bell before? No. This is the first time? Yeah. Could it maybe? And he's like, He says, so what can I have for my belly pain? I'm like, nothing. There's no medicine for the belly pain. And oh, by the way, you go to school with Taco Bell belly pain because that's not infectious. That's not diarrhea. You're not infecting anybody, but you got to go to school. You can't stay home. I will tell you, there was no plan B. He had belly pain for 5 days. He hasn't eaten Taco Bell since then. He was 7. He hasn't had Coke since then either. It's 7 years old. And that's because we sat down without blaming, without badgering, without lecturing, helping him make a connection. And again, that happened on the first go. I have lots of other examples that took, 100 examples before we got to making the realization and the connection. Just happens to be that was really it was significant enough that he paid attention. It was like, I'm done.
And this is important for everybody listening. Notice how Dr. Anna Maria is walking through this, as she's obviously the shepherd for her family. So she's the one that's trying to bring these positive health improvements to everybody. but she's not doing it in a way that, again, is top down, that's forceful, that's we're going to do this and make these changes. It's helping them reach the conclusions on their own. It's asking these questions, trying to help them make the connections for themselves too. And I love this. I think this is so important for people. And there's also a delicate balance between when you have these conversations with kids, because we don't want to create like a situation where with orthorexia or, this hyper focusing on eating healthy or doing things healthy from such a young age. And I think this is a great way to approach that. Any other thoughts, comments on that? Because I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. When talking to kids, adults, husbands, spouses, partners, it's not about healthy, because that's boring. People get bored. You're like, this is healthy. They're like rolling their eyes in their head and they're like fall asleep. So I capitalize on, kids are like, I want to be faster in, when I play tag at recess. It's amazing. What makes you faster? What? Blueberries. They're like, really? Yeah. Like maybe can you have a couple in your lunchbox? Let's do a couple blueberries in your lunchbox and then see how fast you get. Like try it out. And then let me know if you feel like you've gotten faster. About the placebo effect. Of course, they're going to come back and be like, oh, it was faster. I'm like, that's right. So you start kind of spouses. Hey, babe, like a lot of joint pains. I've read this somewhere, maybe Men's Health, that, like maybe gluten and joint pain can be an issue. I don't know, like maybe something to look up. Again, I'm not taking their gluten, but just kind of like speaking to the pain. Whenever I try to do prevention, like my ideal world, I would be a prevention doctor. Like that would be my thing. What's boring? Prevention. It puts everyone to sleep. No one wants to invest in it. They think it's so annoying. But if you have a problem, if your joints hurt, if your bones are falling apart, if you have eczema, if you can't breathe because you have asthma, then we can go, oh, hey, you know what I looked into? This can help with X condition. Now people are listening because it can help that stuff. And when they're little, it could be focus, it could be running, it could be doing less homework because now you remember better. I mean, for all of us that are aging beautifully, of course, who wants brain fog? Nobody. Who wants to lose their memory? No one. So that's a great thing for anyone that is like, oh, I hear people all the time, I'm so tired, I'm fatigued, I have brain fog. I'm like, right, what is the food in front of you? What are you eating? And again, we're not going to say that. We're just going to go, oh, hey, I heard that when we eat more salmon, it improves memory and concentration and focus.
Let's talk about specific nutrients now, because when we're talking about building strong, healthy kids, a good foundation for them from a really young age, they're putting on 90% of their bone mass from 0 to 18. So we want to make sure we're doing the right things then. And that requires having the good stimulus, having good nutrients, protein, minerals, all of those things. And I know for when we talk to our audience about some really important nutrients for bone health, they would be vitamin D, vitamin K2, magnesium, vitamin C, calcium, obviously the primary mineral constituent of your bones. What are some important nutrients that you see, not just for bone health, but maybe that carry across to other conditions too?
Oh, but this is so good, right? Because what do we tell children? We tell them to drink a lot of milk because that's going to make up for a lot of strong bones. And so with the children, what would the parents do? They give the children milk. Milk is very addictive. It is delicious and fabulous. However, the children end up drinking milk and they're not eating a variety of foods. A lot of children become very picky and selective and they eat white foods. White foods like bread, pasta, and chicken nuggets do not contain the minerals that you just talked about. Okay, the chicken can have some, magnesium, but not the processed stuff that we're talking about. What we're looking for is we're looking for berries, for vegetables, fruits, nuts, healthy fats. We're looking for salmon. We're looking for sardines, important nutrients. But when we're just guzzling milk, because in the 80s and the 90s, it was like drink milk with a milk mustache. And everybody's like, we got to drink all this milk because that's what's going to make for strong bones. And it just made for heavy children who are, now we're dealing with a different kind of epidemic. We need to look at all the nutrients. One of the most powerful food, liver. I know, everyone. Liver is Mother Nature's like multivitamin. It's got your B12, it's got your iron, it's got your vitamin C. Name a nutrient you find in the liver. For Americans, we're like, except you go to a French restaurant when they have pate and you pay like $40 for the appetizer, and you go anywhere else in the world and liver pate is literally at the grocery stores and people just put it on toast in the morning for breakfast and it's like a normal thing. Another powerful food, ready? Sardines. What? Amazing D. It is like filled with D, with A, omegas. You cannot get a food that is that high in vitamin D as sardines. Again, what do we do? Americans that live inland especially, oh my God, so gross, like dead fish in a can. It is a dead fish in a can. So is salmon, so is tilapia, so is cod. Okay, they're not in a can, but the sardines are in a can, so that's really gross. However, amazing nutrients. And one of the things people always complain, like supplements are so expensive. I know. So eat it from food, but you can't have it at Chick-fil-A. That's not where you're going to get your nutrients. It is the sardines and the liver, eggs, pasture-raised organic eggs, amazing iron in them, the B vitamins, zinc. I mean, so many great minerals. Again, your vegetables. I teach everyone about plant points and the way we do, and the reason I talk about plant points because it's easy for children and spouses. And spouses have increase their plan point intake because the children have to play this game. And the plan points is as follows. If you take one bite of a strawberry, that's 1 point. If you eat a giant bowl of strawberries, that's still 1 point. The goal being plant variety. So if you have one strawberry, one blueberry, one blackberry, and a slice of bananas, that is 4 plant points that you just had. So all of a sudden, eat more fruits and vegetables, again, boring, annoys people. Having a fun contest, who can get more plant points in their diet, aim for my people that are selective eaters, because that includes adults, we're going to go to 13. If you're an adventurous eater, 30 plant points for you. And so you can make this make this contest meet people wherever they are. I have very picky eaters. They have to lick a fruit or vegetable. Word licking. Did you lick a strawberry? You get 1 point. You licked a blueberry. Now they're not scary. Now we made this less scary, because if you go have a bite, for the ones that can't even have it in their mouth, can be really, really scary. Anyway, the spouses as well, because we have a lot of spouses. I've never eaten vegetables as a youngster, so I'm not going to start now. No, you are. Actually, we are going to do it, because just because you didn't do it before doesn't mean you can't turn things around now. So by eating more plant variety, increases not only your nutrients, like you just said, but it also increases our gut microbiome, because we can eat awesome, yummy food, but if we're not digesting and absorbing, we're just pooping it out, which goes to the vitamin D supplement or magnesium or probiotic. Let's beat up on a probiotic for a second. A lot of people are like, I heard about a probiotic and I know it helps my gut microbiome to help absorb blah, blah, blah. And they eat McDonald's. If you take a probiotic and you eat McDonald's, you just made expensive poop. That's it. You've done nothing. You've not improved. And we know this from actual studies where they took people, they checked their poop. Then they gave them probiotics for 6 weeks. Then they stopped the probiotics, and then they checked the poop several weeks later. The poop at the beginning and at the end, it looked exactly the same, even though people were on probiotics for 6 weeks. Then what they did is they checked poop, put people on probiotics, gave them a plant-rich diet with plant variety. Then they stopped the probiotics and the plant whatever, and then they checked the poop again. There was a massive difference in the people's poop after as compared to before, but only if they ate lots of plants to feed the probiotics. So a lot of folks think that they can take a supplement for their nutrient value without doing anything else. All you're doing is making an expensive pee and expensive poop, and then you get mad at your provider because it did nothing. What else are you doing? Supplements are bridging the gap between your nutrition and lifestyle changes, and it helps you fill in the gaps until the body takes over and heals. The human body has the power to heal. The body knows how to heal. Just a fascinating thing I heard like literally yesterday. So one of the people I work with, her mother is on a liver transplant list. And my question was, so what happened? I mean, there's a lot of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. How, is she going to get a sick liver, a healthy liver? And they said that they talked to the surgeon. When they take a non-alcoholic fatty liver, diseased liver, and put it on a pump, which is like healthy blood coming through, no body, they just take it out of the body and put it on a pump. the fatty liver turns to a regular liver within a few hours, just by not giving it sugar, processed foods, giving it a rich blood from healthy donors that have been screened before. The liver can heal itself in a few hours. Mind blown, done. If the liver can do this, other organs do this. The human body can heal itself, but are we giving it the right nutrients? And you're right, vitamin D, again, if it's too expensive, go outside, there's sunshine. One of the number one things that's happened after the pandemic, it started before the pandemic, but after, we become even more sedentary. You don't get inside vitamin D from your lights. You have to be outside. What do you need for bones? Play in the yard. Let the kids play in the dirt, get dirty, throw themselves on the ground, be on the monkey bars, chuck rocks at each other. Okay, not each other's heads, but you know what I'm saying? Like throw a football, throw a frisbee. All those activities help strong bones while you're getting vitamin D from the sun. Eating nuts gets your magnesium. If we talk about probiotics, you don't want to spend money on probiotics. Fermented food. You can get sauerkraut and kimchi. Those are fermented, but kombucha. You can have all of these in your food. Zinc from your seeds, sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. People are like obsessed in pediatrics with multivitamins. What multivitamin do I give my child? I'm like, how about we eat plant points? They're so annoyed with me. They're like, no, but what is the multivitamin? I'm like, no. We're going to eat. Because here's the thing. When you eat a food, the body is able to better absorb it, digest it, assimilate, which means put in this, than if you eat a man-made supplement. So when you get the stuff from food, it is far better, much better used. Now, again, we have to have a healthy gut, which we're talking about the probiotics. How do we do a healthy gut? Increase your plant points, decrease processed foods, reduce your added sugar less than 24 grams a day. And now we can get a healthy gut that's able to absorb the calcium, the vitamin D, the magnesium. And by the way, once those nutrients are absorbed, they go to the bones and help make strong bones. If you can't absorb it, you're just pooping all that out.
You mentioned a couple foods there that when people do hear them, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I can't do that. My kids probably can't do that. So one of them was liver. So there is a company called Pluck that does like liver. I
love that.
It's like liver and organ meat seasoning. And you can actually go and sprinkle this on your food or your kids' food. It actually tastes pretty darn good. You can't even tell. And you're getting liver in your food and you can't even really tell. So that's one way to kind of sneak that in there and still get those additional nutrients. You mentioned eggs and like getting these plant points. So bringing additional foods in here. I actually think teaching kids from a young age how to cook, how to make their own food is one of the most important skills we can teach kids from a young age. So they are not reliant on the McDonald's. So they're not reliant on somebody else to make their own food and feeling helpless when they want that. So eggs and carrots or other vegetables like that, I think are great to help kids learn how to cook. You can have them put a little butter in a pan, crack an egg, make it a cool learning experience, stir it up in the pan. It doesn't require anything else. Put it on the plate, then they can eat what they just made. Maybe sprinkle a little sea salt in there or something. And that you've just taught them how to kind of sustain themselves. They're involved in the process. And I think that's a really good way to do that. And you can do the same thing with carrots. It's really hard to mess up carrots. When you put butter or oil or something like that in a pan, avocado oil or something, and saute some carrots, they get to be a part of the process. So that's what I'm getting at. And then from a dessert perspective, Dr. Anna Maria is talking about not having all these extra added sugars. And you can look on a label and see where it says added sugar on there. And that's what we're trying to avoid. But something like healthy fruit sugars too, you don't want to overdo those, but you can have the kids get involved and make their own organic berry bowls or something like that for dessert. So those are just a couple ideas. Bake sweet potato fries, cut kiwis in half, have them scoop it out. Those are just fun ways to get some of these additional nutrients. I want to dive into one other thing or couple specific nutrients related to skin health. And then what I want to do is tell people about where they can find your programs, because you do have programs for eczema also and skin health. And so we'll talk about those in just a second. But let's talk about zinc, which I know is a really important nutrient for our skin, and any other important nutrients for our skin health, and why that's so important for kids and adults alike.
Yeah, I love it. I wanted, before I answer that, I wanted, one thing that you said was talking about getting kids to cook in the kitchen. Also getting your spouse to help you in the kitchen, because there, as I said, there's picky eaters and there's picky spouses. And so if you're getting pushback from your spouse, cooking together with your spouse is super important. And the reason that that's important, number one, it's a chemistry. It's you working together, you're helping one another. Put some music on, have some laughs, don't talk business, don't talk about the kids, like just kind of make it almost like a little datey kind of stuff. And now we're making food more fun, more enticing, especially for the spouses that are selective and they don't want to eat fruits and vegetables, because we know we have those, and they don't want to make food changes. Because once it becomes fun, they're more going to be more likely on board, just like the children, to eat more variety, and the barriers are going to decrease. The other thing, oh, by the way, if as a woman, do not wait for a man. I'm not beating up a man, but they don't mind read. That's what I learned after 4 marriage counselors. My husband cannot mind read. So if I want him to be in the kitchen with me because I'm cooking and I need help, he doesn't see it. He doesn't understand it. So he'll sit and watch football. And then I sit and I'm like all annoyed that I'm the only one cooking. And turns out when I communicate that I need help in the kitchen, then he's like, oh, sweet. Oh, I didn't know. Perfect. I would love to help you. I just didn't know you need anything. So I'm just going to watch football. Like, why would I do something if I'm not needed? So just a little plug there. Nutrients. So zinc is super important for the skin. It's totally overlooked. You can find a lot of data. A lot of people know about vitamin D, let's say, but zinc is an amazing micronutrient that is needed, and it's so incredibly deficient, just like magnesium. That's another really good one, because it has to be in the soil, and our current agricultural practices leave the soil devoid of zinc and magnesium. So majority of people are actually zinc and magnesium deficient, even though they eat, let's say, lots of plants and lots of seeds and nuts, because it's not in the soil. So that's actually something you can get checked at your doctor's. And it's not just a regular zinc, it's a zinc RBC and a magnesium RBC. And the reason you want to get the red blood cell zinc and red blood cell magnesium is because the content in the red blood cells is what actually gets absorbed and into the body and sent to the cells. And that is important for not just eczema, but for wrinkles, for shiny skin, for memory, for focus, all the different things that we talk about. The same thing with magnesium. Another thing that's great for skin, especially before I use it in children and adults as well, is collagen. Is a fabulous, making sure that you know where to get your collagen from. But having collagen in your smoothies and your coffee can do amazing stuff for your skin, for your hair, for your nails. My people love it. Don't forget the omega-3s. Omega-3s are so important for skin, eyeballs, brain. Again, a lot of people are like, this one nutrient is great for this one organ. No, this one nutrient is great for all your organs. It just depends on how you search it on Google. But omega-3s in our American culture, here's another thing. So there's a study done in psoriasis, and the study was done on omega-3s. Does omega-3 make any difference in psoriasis? And some studies said, wow, amazing difference. In other studies, it said, no, it didn't. A meta-analysis, which is looking at all the studies, was kind of like, meh, we don't think that omega-3 does a whole lot of stuff, until you look deeper into the studies. And when they looked deeper into the studies, they noticed, here we go, that when you do omega-3s, and you lower your omega-6, aka making dietary changes and removing processed foods from your diet, the omega-3 will make a big difference, because it is now added to your body and doesn't have to fight against the garbage. And I'm going to call omega-6 garbage just for this example. Don't take it to heart. Because in the ratios of omega-3 to omega-6 should be 1:1 or 1:3 and maybe 4:6. In our American diet, we have 1:3 to 24 to 56. In other words, the inflammatory omega-6 is so much more prevalent in our diet and our bodies than omega-3. So as you notice in the studies, when we're able to make dietary changes and reduce our omega-6, the supplement we took was able to make incredible improvement in people with psoriasis, but not if they didn't make any dietary changes, just like in the probiotic example.
Hey, it's Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Bone Coach Show. If you're finding it helpful, please leave a positive rating and review. Hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast or the channel. That lets us help more people and reach and serve more people. And it also lets us know that this is helpful to you on your journey to better health and stronger bones. And then also, right down in the show notes, you can actually find a link to my free Bone Healthy Recipes Guide. That's going to give you access to some amazing and delicious recipes to support your journey to stronger bones. And then also, we have a link to my free Stronger Bones Masterclass in the show notes too. And that is the 3-step process that has helped people in over 1,500 cities around the world get confident in their plan for stronger bones. Over 110,000 people have taken part in this, and it's been really, really helpful for them. And I want you to have free access to it too. So add your name and email right down there in the show notes, get access to that free Stronger Bones Masterclass, and let's get you confident in your Stronger Bones plan today. I love that. Thank you so much. This has been super helpful. I know our audience took a lot away from this, especially as they're looking through the lens of their kids, their grandkids, helping create healthy foundations, which then can prevent, health issues down the road. Dr. Anna Maria Temple, and will you just share where people can find you, and then tell us a little bit about your program before we close out?
Yeah. So my favorite place to be, I'm going to be there tomorrow, is Walmart, Target, and Costco, where I shop for you because I tell you all this stuff and it's just absolutely overwhelming to go to a store and apply what we just talked about. So I go do it for you. I'm at the store and I show you, don't buy this, buy this. And I've already done the work for you. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Anna Maria Temple, same on TikTok, same on YouTube. I put on all the channels to make your life as easy as possible because changes are hard. And if I can make your life a little easier, I'm here to do so. And my online eczema program right now is for children. We are launching an adult program in January. But for right now, we work with families with children up to 18. And it's amazing. I have naturopathic doctors, MDs, nurse practitioners, health coaches, where we walk you through the changes that need to be made in a family. And I'll tell you, when the family makes changes together, incredible results. When the family only picks on one and makes the changes on that one, it's not as it works, but it's not as impressive because everyone else doesn't get to benefit from the amazing transformation.
That's fantastic. What's the website? What's your website too?
You're just drannamaria.com.
drannamaria.com. We'll link to that in the show notes. And thank you again for your time. And for everybody listening, check her out. Go to Instagram, go to all our other social channels, Dr. Anna Maria Temple. And then we'll link to all the rest of the resources in the show notes. I want to thank you all again so much for your time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, it's Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. Hope you found that episode helpful and that you enjoyed it. Just one last reminder, if you haven't done so already, head over to bonecoach.com, sign up for your free 7-day osteoporosis kickstart. It's going to tell you everything you need to do to start getting on the path to improvement. Hope you found this helpful. I'm your Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. I'll see you soon.